and welcome to An Artist's Dream, the podcast where we share artists' journeys in their art careers to help you find your own path. My name is Alex Agosto, and welcome to the show. This is super exciting. This is our first interview since the show has restarted, and I have a really, really special guest today. Her name is Rachel, but you probably know her as Rainylune. She's most well known online for her cute criminal frogs. I'm sure you've seen them around either on your TikTok For You page, or you probably follow them on Instagram. I think you'll be really excited to hear Rachel's story today. She has a very diverse business with a lot of moving parts that I'm sure a lot of her fans wonder, how it all works and how she got there. So without further ado, let's let her actually talk about her story. I'm sure you're dying to have her start. So please, let's give a warm welcome to our friend Rachel, aka Rainylune. Welcome to the show, Rachel. How have you been?
I've been doing all right, keeping busy.
Oh, I bet. I've checked out all the projects you've been working on, and you have definitely been a super busy bee.
I have so many going on that I forget what I have going on.
Oh, I can totally relate. So, for the listeners out there who might not know who you are, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Rachel, and I draw frogs who are criminals, and that's it.
It's such a good summation of what you do.
I've been trying to figure out how to describe what I do, and it's like artist, small business owner. No, frog, criminal, drawer. That's what I do.
I mean, it encompasses all your projects so well. It's hilarious. So, let's start way back. I always like asking people this question, but as far as art is concerned, have you always been into art since you were a little kid?
Yeah, I started doodling when I was in elementary school, and I wouldn't say I was super into art. I was mostly doing it because I have ADHD and I had a hard time staying focused in class. And
Mm-hmm.
I saw a story on the news that had something about doodling in the margins of notes helps people focus more. And so by doing that, I was able to keep my hands occupied and it helped keep me awake. And then eventually my teachers got really tired of me drawing all over my assignments. And so they made me get a separate sketchbook. And by having the sketchbook, I really found a love for art, even though everything I drew was just silly little doodles. I really enjoyed it.
Wow, so you started using art kind of as a coping mechanism when you were little.
Yeah, not for the love of art, just for the love of keeping me awake.
Hey, art is a great thing to keep you busy. It'll keep you awake in more ways than one. And so, when would you say you started taking art more seriously as something more than something you did to pass the time and more something that, oh, I could possibly do this for a living?
That would be probably sophomore year of high school when I started saying, hey, I actually enjoy this, and there's people who are artists for a living, and maybe I could do that too. And so I started taking art lessons with a lady in my neighborhood for a few months, and I was so heartbroken when I showed her my sketchbook and she told me that my doodles weren't real art.
Oh my
And so
God.
I stopped going to the lessons then, and I decided to be fueled by spite, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn how to be a real artist and prove her wrong. And so I I was also told that I'd never make money as a traditional artist, and also I really like technology, so I started learning how to do digital art, and I started learning how to draw well. But oh, now I'm here, and everything I do is just silly doodles, and that's my entire job. So take that, lady.
It's wild, right? Because I feel like, I guess in their defense, back in the day, I think people didn't have as wide a view of the possibilities that art had, just because I feel like with how far the internet has progressed, even in the past 10 years, I don't know if even my art teachers back then could have possibly pictured like me making money off of the type of, because I also kind of do very doodly type of art. So, it's kind of like you said, it's kind of funny when you do find success in it, because they would have never known, but also take that.
Oh yeah, nobody ever could have imagined. And I'm just glad that I didn't have to draw onions anymore with her. I had to draw so many onions.
Onions of all things, like so many other things you could choose.
Ah.
Wonder if she liked Shrek. I bet she hated Shrek from the sounds of
Yeah,
it.
she wasn't a very good humor kind of lady, so
Yeah. And so I know that I read on your website that you're currently a student, right?
I am, yeah.
So are you an art student? Are you going to an art school?
I'm actually going to Arizona State right now, and I'm doing their online program, and I am going to graduate in August, which I'm super excited for.
Oh, congratulations. You're so
Thank
close.
you.
So have you finished your classes, or are you like still working on it, almost done?
I still have 2 more classes, my senior project and my senior portfolio. And it's
Mhm.
taking me a bit longer to graduate because I switched schools. I used to commute to a local college and I was in the digital art program there, except they were so focused on traditional art and not enough on technology, it felt
Mm.
like to me. So I'm really happy that I did make the switch to Arizona State because there I'm able to focus more on learning about how to use the different programs, like all the Adobe programs, and a huge range of different topics from programming to video editing to e-commerce and business and search engine optimization, all that stuff. So I got to learn a whole lot of stuff, and I'm very glad that I switched.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It's so I understand, I guess, when programs try to do a strong emphasis on traditional art, because all art kind of shares the same basics, but I feel like a lot of these programs are outdated in their methods, for sure.
Exactly. Exactly. Did I need to spend time in woodshop or learn how to weld to help me be better at digital art? No, not really.
Oh my god, I cannot even imagine. And so what major are you doing now?
It's called graphic information technology. And basically, what that means is art design and technology.
Ooh, so that sounds like it's gonna be really versatile depending on whatever you decide to do after this.
What I plan to do after this is to continue to work on my business full time. So it has been very helpful in
Yeah.
teaching me a lot of skills for my business. So I'm happy about that.
Absolutely. And actually, this is a really good segue, because your business, I feel like, is so interesting because there's so many moving parts to it. You have your e-commerce website, but you also run Kickstarters, you have a Patreon, and it's so interesting to watch as a fan on this side, because I imagine everyone listening here must be like, "Wow, like she's doing a lot. She's doing a lot."
I,
So,
I am doing a lot.
so like, how did you start? How did this business come to be?
Well, for a school project, I drew a frog, and I didn't know what frogs looked like when I tried to draw it. And it was a very stupid looking frog. And I don't know, I just felt some sort of connection with him. And then I just kept drawing him. And eventually I used to draw a lot of video game fan art, and then I just kept putting my frog character into everything. And now all I draw is frogs. I injured my wrist, and also have a chronic pain condition, and it got really bad a few years ago, and so I wasn't able to draw normally. And so I started drawing my simple frogs using just my computer mouse. And
Mm.
because I was desperate, I still wanted to be able to draw, but I couldn't hold the pen to do it. So by using my mouse, I was able to still create. And then I found a love for drawing these silly simple frogs.
That's amazing. I love how the character kind of came to be due to you being stubborn and being like, I'm drawing. I know I'm hurt, but I'm drawing.
Yeah.
Funny enough, that backstory also fits with, these violent frogs. It's like they
Oh yes.
came they were birthed through pain, and so they carry that on.
Exactly.
So, I guess out of in your business, did you start off with just the e-com? Did you start on Kickstarter? Like how did you just start selling the products with your frog on it?
Well, I started on Etsy selling stickers and keychains of my video game fan art, which also had my frogs shoehorned in. And then Patreon was announcing that they were going to up their rates. And so I decided to go ahead and make a Patreon before they did that. And so I decided I would make a frog sticker club. And because I really love drawing my frogs, but I wasn't sure if anybody else really enjoyed my frogs. And my first 5 patrons were good friends of mine online, and I'm very grateful to them. And I just kept making my frog stickers, and I printed them out myself and cut them out with my Cricut machine, and was sending them through envelopes that I got from my workplace. And I just kept going, and then my Patreon kept growing, and then everything I made started to transition into being only frog. And then I ended up growing too big for Etsy, and so I had to move to my own website.
Man, I bet Etsy's been a little bit controversial lately with all their issues. I myself have had a couple close calls recently with Etsy, them wanting to shut down my store because competitors are fraudulently reporting my original art, saying that I didn't make it. Very
Yikes.
Yeah, and Etsy really, I feel like they're approaching that area of not caring for their sellers, which is kind of funny because I just got a survey this morning from Etsy being like, how can we support sellers more? I'm like, I don't think you want me to answer that honestly.
Yeah, Etsy is great for starting out, and it allows more people to find you through the marketplace setting. But once you are able to drive all of your own traffic through social media or through wherever, I would definitely move off it.
For sure. And so I guess when you moved off of Etsy, what do you use now? Shopify?
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah, I think Shopify is a really good transition for artists who want to leave Etsy but don't know what to do, because I feel like Shopify still has a lot of, like, their platform is still familiar if you know how
Mhm.
to use Etsy, but the amount of freedom you have is so much nicer.
Yes, you do have a lot of freedom and more control over things, but then also there's a learning curve on how trying to figure out how to install different apps and things to make your shop what you want it to be.
But it's nice because, like, once you get a hang of it, you can really customize your shop, like, down to the nitty-gritty with all those apps.
Mhm.
And so, aside from your shop and your Patreon, you also have had a couple of Kickstarters, and if I'm not mistaken, your latest Kickstarter was for an Ita bag, right?
Yes, it was. I was doing a few Kickstarters when I first started off to fund my plushies, and then when my Eat a Bag Kickstarter really took off last summer, it's kind of blown my whole business out of the water.
I bet. So I actually have the page up right now, and that Kickstarter has $179,000 worth of pledges. Is this your biggest Kickstarter to date?
That is my biggest Kickstarter, and then I also extended the pre-order through BackerKit, and I don't even know what that total was. It ended up being more money than I could ever comprehend.
I bet. And I guess for people who might not be familiar with Kickstarter, let's backtrack a little. What is Kickstarter?
So basically, someone comes and they're like, I have an idea for a thing to make. And if enough people give me money, then I will make that thing. And so you try to get people to be like, okay, yeah, I'll give you money to make that thing. And that's basically what Kickstarter is.
Yeah, so it's kind of a way to help fans and potential fans fund your project to like kind of limit your risk so that you don't,
Yeah.
because like on average whenever you want to try to make a new product, a lot of times that comes out of your pocket,
Oh,
and
yeah.
whether it goes well or not is up to the gods.
Yes. And it can also be difficult to figure out how many to order. I didn't think I'd get 100 or if I was lucky 500 sales, much less order 5,000 bags.
Yes, I think that that's definitely a good point. It raises that point of what Kickstarter allows you to do is a lot of times, even when we've reached a certain level of success, I think our mind gets limited by our past experiences and we can't see the possibilities. And so, what platforms like Kickstarter allow you to do is kind of expand the possibility beyond what you thought. Because, like you said, right, you had never sold anything at this level before. So, how would you have known that that many people would have been interested if you didn't put it out there for them to support you?
Exactly.
So, would you suggest Kickstarter to other people who are looking to produce new products?
I would. I have mixed feelings about Kickstarter, and my business wouldn't be where it is without Kickstarter, but also it has been a very painful process because I was not expecting so many people to be interested and buy my product. So I've had delays because the manufacturer couldn't keep up. I've had shipping delays, and I didn't realize that I wouldn't be able to send out 5,000 bags by myself while still being a full-time student. So
Mm.
it has overall been quite the learning experience, and it really helps me scale my business, but also it has caused a lot of stress and hair pulling. And if you're trying to fund something, and you're also looking to build hype, I definitely would recommend looking at Kickstarter because I use it as a way to basically function as pre-orders. But Kickstarter builds excitement from people a lot more than a standard pre-order will, because you see that bar ticking up, getting closer, and then there's stretch goals that you want to unlock. So if you're trying to get people really excited about something, I would definitely recommend Kickstarter. But for, I guess, just making things easier, doing normal pre-orders probably works better.
Yeah, I can definitely see both, and especially like you said, with Kickstarter, the other nice thing is kind of like to the point that you made about Etsy, that Kickstarter is also kind of a search engine. So your possibility of reaching people outside of just your fan base is much larger because you're giving them a platform to search for projects like yours.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And so do you have any tips for someone who might be interested in maybe giving Kickstarter a go?
I would communicate very, very clearly about how things will work and wildly overestimate how much time it needs. Just wildly, wildly overestimate because there will be delays and people will get upset with you and you can't really do anything about it. So always go for much longer than you think it will take. And also be ready for customer service. Customer service is the same if you're working retail or if you are an artist running your own business, I have found out. And you will receive a lot of emails, comments, messages, especially when mine started going viral. My thumbs were so sore just from answering messages. I could hardly move them for at least a week during my whole campaign. And I've answered so many emails trying to explain to people that it's not instant and that I'm sorry that it has taken so long. And if you read my update I put on Kickstarter, you would see the answer to your question. Or if you read the description, you would see the answer to your question. If you read the FAQ, you would see the answer to your question. So just be ready for everything that could be possibly thrown at you.
Mm-hmm. And kind of like you mentioned, customer service is the same pretty much no matter what platform you're working on. But it also brings up this point of when you work in e-commerce and when you work just as a freelance artist, there are so many skills that go into it that you would probably not even think of if that's not the world you're in, right? Because like
Yeah.
you work customer service, but you're also a social media marketer, and you're also, depending on what kind of business you have, you might also be running your own ads, and you have to be your own advocate. You're also the artist. You're also the person
Hmm.
that probably is packing and shipping.
Yep. You work so many different positions, and it can be hard to juggle all the different things you are having to do.
Yeah. And do you have, I guess, other friends that are kind of in that same boat where you kind of talk to them, kind of like a little support system, or are you kind of like a lone artist?
I have a lot of different artist friends that I've met all through social media, and they're some of my dearest friends. And we all talk about different things and give each other tips and just try to survive all this together.
Yeah, I feel like it's so important, especially when you're working kind of like in the kind of work that you do where you're running a shop by yourself. It's nice to have a set of friends that kind of understand your struggles, because one thing is talking to like maybe your family or a spouse, but like if they don't get it, they can't really offer a lot that is relatable to you, right?
Exactly. I'm able to talk to people who understand what I'm doing and going through, which is
Mm,
really nice.
yeah. And I guess, how did you meet some of these friends?
Just on Instagram, they were posting in the same niche as I was, and we would comment on each other's posts, respond to each other on stories, and then uh, I'm in Discord with a lot of these people. The friendship just kind of happened naturally with so many people, and I'm so very blessed to have such a large support group of friends. Because without them, my business wouldn't have grown to what it is, thanks to people sharing and supporting me. And it is so nice to have all these people there for me, and I love them all to pieces.
And I think like you said, a lot of I know a lot of listeners have asked over time, like, how do you cultivate that that kind of support system? Like, how do you make such supportive online artist friends? Because a lot of people feel like, oh, it's so hard to maintain a relationship that's exclusively online. But it's like you said, right? You just reach out to artists that you think are cool, you comment on each other's stuff, you share stuff, and it kind of grows from there.
Yeah, it's really just as easy as talking to them. I wouldn't like try to talk to someone who has like a huge following because they get a lot of messages every day, but find people who are commenting on your posts, you comment on theirs, and it's just as easy as that. But I'm also, if I don't talk to someone for weeks or months, I will still believe we're at the same level of friendship, even if we haven't spoken so long. So
Hmm.
I don't really have those friendship degradation.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the same way. I My friends know that's like, hey, just because I might not have messaged you for the past 2 months doesn't mean I don't love you.
Exactly.
Oh, so what would you say so far, because you're a student, right? So you're currently in the situation I think a lot of listeners are in. They're going to school because they want to pursue art full time.
Hmm.
Would you say that going to school for what you've studied has been important to your journey so far?
I think it definitely has been important. And originally, I started off wanting to go into animation, but then with my arm injury, I realized it, and my chronic pain, I realized it wouldn't be possible. And I still can't quite draw with a stylus for extended amounts of time without severe pain. And So I am so incredibly grateful to my major because it's not quite as art and design focused. It's more about teaching you the skills to use these tons of different tools online. And the when I attended so many art classes back at the beginning of college, I felt like those honestly did not make me a better artist. And because I knew how to draw lines and I learned how to draw portraits and use charcoal and everything, but I felt like that wasn't as instructive as learning digital art tools for me since I wanted to be a digital artist and just being able to experiment with the programs and learning how to make better art on my own time.
For sure. So for you, you found going to school for this has been helpful more for the technical aspect more so than like theory.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something really important to emphasize to people because one thing I've talked about on the show a couple times is that the average person is convinced that they have to do art school in order to be a professional.
Uh,
But yeah, it's tricky, right? Because like I went to art school and for something kind of random, I went to school for jewelry design and I am not a jewelry designer and I paid a lot of money for that. And
yep.
it's kind of one of those things where when you're going to school, odds are you're fresh out of high school, and I think it's kind of unrealistic to expect that you know exactly 100% what you're going to be doing with your life even 6 years from now,
Exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
if you've throughout high school have taken art classes and you're even at a level where you can submit a competitive portfolio depending on what you want to do at the moment. Art school may or may not be necessary because, like you said, right, you mainly wanted it for the technical aspects, but you didn't really feel like you wanted that theoretical side. And the thing with a lot of art schools is that a lot of it is about the theoretical side.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I feel like it's about assessing what your needs are and being realistic about whether or not you need it. Because I guess another aspect to art school is the bonding with your peers and kind of making connections.
Mhm.
And I think that is another part that people
Networking.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. Have you found that it's been useful for you in your case, networking at school?
I have not made a single friend from all my time at college. I even
Really?
when I even when I went to school, I commuted and I had a few friends while I was there, but none that I really keep in touch with at all really. And
Mhm.
all of my friends are friends that I have made online and I've been able to network just fine online. And
Mhm.
I really wish that instead of going to a state school and spending all that time and money uh, on those traditional art classes, but instead I had gone to community college and learned a lot of taken a lot of different classes and trying to figure out what I wanted to do on my own time because a majority of my artistic skill I've learned just by practicing and getting better on my own time, not through school. And
Mm.
so, and plus, you're still trying to discover and find yourself at that age. And I didn't really truly discover myself or become content with myself until I 2 years, maybe 3 years into college. And so that's why I believe that going right off to school, and I know it's really exciting, you want the college experience, but especially taking those 2 community college years to learn more about yourself and what you really want to do and saving money while doing it is going to be really more impactful. And then you can still go off to school for the last few years and get that college experience. But I think we put a lot of hype on going off to school as soon as you graduate. And I think maybe we should just slow down and try to figure out who we are and what we want first.
I completely agree. I really do look back and I wish I had done that as well. Um, when I was 18, looking back, I had told the story a couple of times on the show, but I had been training under a pretty well-known jeweler in Puerto Rico. I had been a kind of
Wow.
like his apprentice, yeah, for about 3 years. And so for me, kind of the logical next step was, okay, I need to. I don't know why I thought I have to go to school. I have to legitimize this, and I think that's the problem, right? Everyone feels like they cannot be legit unless they have a degree in their hands.
A
And
degree is specifically in that subject when really you can learn a lot of different things, but still be an artist as long as your portfolio matters. And while the networking and you get from going to an art school is one thing, it's not the be all end all.
absolutely not, especially um depending on your background and how you've learned your skills so far, I feel really dictate. And also, that is not to say there are some majors where like absolutely go to school if that's what you want to do. Things like, I think, animation is
Mm-hmm.
kind of hard if you don't go to school for it. Not impossible,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
much harder. But if you want to be an illustrator, like, uh, I think you can manage without going to a big prestigious school.
Especially just for going to an art school just for that. Just in my personal opinion, I don't have any experience out in the workforce or how that applies to getting a job, but
Yeah, and I guess like we mentioned, it is highly dependent on what field you go into, because on the podcast we a lot of times we talk about art in general, but there's so many tiny niche things to do in art. And while some of them do require you to have a degree in them, depending on how high a level of technical ability you need, a lot of them, I mean, you hear it all the time. A lot of our favorite artists that we look up to are a lot of times college dropouts.
yeah.
I mean, one that I remember is Michael Kors. He came to speak in our school about fashion design, about his career, and he told us that he did not finish his degree in fashion design at FIT. And
Wow.
everybody was like, "What?" And, like, he came to FI. I was an FIT student. He's like, "Yeah, no, I was sitting where you guys were. I just didn't finish."
That's
And
funny.
yeah, and I think it's important for artists to be candid about things like that, because I think we all need to open our eyes to the fact that uh, having that degree for a lot of jobs is really a formality. And for many people, maybe that's the only type of art education they ever got, right? But if it's
Hmm.
not, and you've already had some art education before and you're very disciplined, I mean, there's no reason for you to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to dig
Yeah.
yourself in a hole.
I could have, when my business really took off, I could have left school and had people ask me why I hadn't. And my biggest reason was I had spent all this time and money to be so close. I'm going to get that damn piece of paper,
Mhm.
whether it kills me. And also, my mom would have killed me. So there
Oh
we
my
go.
god. Yeah,
And my parents didn't want me to be an artist at all.
really?
But now I am wildly successful and doing better than they are in their jobs. And now they're like, well, you sure showed us.
Yeah. I feel like that's everybody's dream, right? In art, like, cuz I think that that narrative is very common about parents. I think because parents just want what's best for us and they're
Uh-huh.
worried. I think back in the day, saying that you wanted to be an artist was like blasphemy, because there were not, or at least there was not perceived to be that many avenues for you to take that
Yeah,
career,
and the
right?
starving artist trope.
For sure, which is, I feel like, couldn't be further from the truth, especially like now.
Uh-huh.
And so I guess with your experience so far in your business and in school, what would you say are some big lessons that you've learned that have impacted your art or your business?
Learning just the basic business skills, because when I started off, I was just drawing frogs and I didn't know really much about anything else. And my biggest lessons have been learned the hard way in terms of accounting and how money works and taxes and trying to organize a business and how to have professional business meetings and present myself as an adult who knows what I'm talking about instead of just a girl who draws frogs. And that has been some of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And it's hard to give any specific advice on that. And I'm still learning it.
I feel like being a business owner is a never-ending journey of learning. I feel like you
Exactly.
learn stuff, new stuff every day, especially with e-commerce. There's always new things that have to do with the algorithm, with your platforms, with everything.
I've also had to learn how to talk on the phone to people and how to have Zoom meetings. And I used to be super shy and I hated talking on the phone, but this has really forced me to learn how to do it because I spend so much time on the phone with people now.
Mhm. I I know what you mean. Weirdly enough, this pandemic, if it's done anything, it's made like I used to be so socially anxious, and I feel like in a time where we were all forced to be alone was the time where I had to learn to speak the most.
Yeah.
The irony is just it's been so funny because now I think now like I mean I still get nervous like before this interview, like this is my first interview on the podcast in like 2 years, and I was like all like jittery, and I'm like what's like
Aw.
like you're talking to a person. I know it's been like forever since you've talked to a person, but that's okay. But
Yeah.
it's funny, like, even situations like this pandemic have forced us all to learn lessons that we probably would not have learned otherwise, right?
Yeah.
And how did the pandemic affect you? Did it affect your business, in any way?
It affected my business in that it caused my business to take off. Before I was just doing small things, and then with everyone stuck at home and on social media more, I was
Mhm.
able to it feels bad to say I benefited from that, but I had so many more eyes on my products and a lot of people viewing it, and I was able to grow astronomically.
For sure. I feel like a lot of people can relate that the pandemic, although of course very tragic with a lot of the effects it's had on the world, it has enabled people to pursue other avenues in their lives, especially people in ecom. Definitely
E-commerce has really taken off.
yeah, I think this was anyone who decided to pursue a business during the pandemic definitely did so at a good time because it was a time where like there was still risk involved, but the risks were minimized because your chance for exposure was so much higher than usual.
I think it really depends. For a lot of online businesses, if they were able to adapt well, they
Mhm.
probably did better. But then at the same time, there's people lost their jobs and there wasn't a lot of money to spend for
Mhm.
some people, while others still were able to. So it really depends on the person and the situation.
For sure. Um and I guess I'm like approaching the last few questions. Do you have any advice for someone who kind of wants to pursue a business similar to yours?
My advice is that you will need the three biggest things you will need are time, money, and luck. And so it wouldn't have been possible for me to build up my business if I didn't have free time because I wasn't commuting to school anymore, being an online student. So I was able to devote all that time into building up my business. And then with money, you need money to buy products. And also, if I was trying to make rent every month, I'm super lucky to be able to live with my parents for free. And so I had spare money that I could spend. I will risk it on buying this product and hope other people will buy it, versus if I was struggling to pay bills, and I wouldn't have been able to take those risks. And the last most important thing for me was luck. My business really only took off because the right person saw it at the right time and shared. And it happened a few times, and I was able to grow because of that. So you can be like an amazingly talented artist, and it really just depends on luck and timing and the situation to really grow.
Yeah, I think that's especially true in business. I feel like you can be the hardest worker in the world, but you really do need that like touch of luck, because it's like you said, it really is about the right people seeing it, and that means, putting yourself out there and giving them that chance.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have any exciting projects on the horizon for Rainylune?
I do, but I'm not legally allowed to talk about it.
Oh, okay. Well, that kind of makes it even more exciting, though.
Yeah, I'm excited, and it'll probably take over a year to for it to be completed and before I can really announce it. But it's going to be a really big step for my brand and for Rainylune as a whole. So I'm really excited.
Oh, that's awesome. So, people definitely need to keep an eye out. So, I guess before we leave, do you have any parting words for aspiring artists listening?
My parting words, I think, would be to do what you want. And even if you aren't a great artist, you don't need to be good at art to make good art. So do what you want, and don't let anyone try to tell you otherwise, and do what makes you happy. And I think that's it.
But don't do crimes like the frogs, because they're terrible role models.
Or definitely do crimes. I support it.
Be like Frog, do crime.
Yes, those are my parting words.
That's very on brand. So, where can people find you?
Well, they can find me by going to my website, rainylune.com, and it is spelled Rainy, Lune, because nobody knows how to spell it. And you can find me a lot on Instagram and Twitter. And I'm constantly posting on my Instagram story about things going on in my daily life, and also pictures of my dog, which I think are very important. So you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to see like behind the scenes and like more about her life, definitely check out her Instagram stories. And I guess before we leave, because like you said, people never know how to spell the username. Where did you come up with that username?
I was back at my first college. I was wasting time between classes, and I was in a cafe called La Lune Sucré, and I was trying to sign up for a new website, and my normal username was taken. So I was like, oh no, now I have to come up with a new one. And it was raining outside, and so I'm like, okay, Rainy, and then I took part of the name of the cafe, Lune, and I'm like, Rainylune, done. And I put it together, and then eventually I ended up liking it so much I changed my username everywhere else.
Oh my God, that's amazing though. Oh, that's so cute. That's going to be so nice also as time goes by, because it'll remind you of that cafe.
Mm-hmm. It was a little overpriced, but it was very good.
Well, it might have been overpriced, but they gave you something priceless. They gave you a brand name.
A great way to put it.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest. I had such a blast talking to you and learning more about your business and kind of like your career journey.
Yeah, I had fun too.
Wow, I just am so amazed by Rachel and her business. She's a full-time student and a full-time business owner. Like, I picture back to the time when I was in college, and man, I cannot imagine doing all of that while also balancing a business. So the story was super inspiring. As I mentioned, everything that she mentioned, links to her social media and everything else will be down in the show notes or description box. And if you want to follow along with the podcast, make sure to subscribe on any platform that you're using to listen to me right now. And follow the podcast on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're now on TikTok. So all those links will be down below. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode and that you will join me again for another one. But until then, this is Alex saying goodbye, my friend, and I will see you again very soon. Bye.